Welcome back, folks. The HellRaisers versus Virtus.pro. Virtus.pro win game 1 with a 10th pick Huskar. And despite HellRaisers' best efforts to emulate of Spirit Broken Ags phase everywhere, Magnus and Tiny were not enough, T. But this time, there won't be any Tiny. HellRaisers realized the issue of their draft. They baited themselves in. They shouldn't be picking Tiny at all. Is this the move?
No, I think it's all about what teams value. And you can see that HellRaisers, they first picked the Tiny in their game. And now that they don't have first pick, in their minds, they're valuing this Tiny very highly. On the alternative, previous games, VP have picked up this Lycan very early. So now, with these bans coming through, they're now just going to pick up what VP think is strong, and they get their Lycan. So.
Yep, and we've seen now Lethal, they can do this before. They just kind of like to create this environment where you just pick Magnus. Baby. I mean, I'm happy to see it, because I was about to say, VP is just going to create this environment where they try and split the map and they force you to kill one while ignoring the other, right? HellRaisers is like, doesn't matter, because even if we kill the wrong one, eventually you're going to be in our base again.
I'd like to see an adaptation in this Ogre Magnus draft where, so across the first day when VP won both their series, like you just said, their drafts were all about, no one was on either a big space-making hero where Epileptic Kid had this win condition, or the flip side was Epileptic Kid was then able to take the space creation needed in the draft, and then no one was able to play like this Medusa, for example. So I'd like to see HellRaisers potentially try and, especially that last pick, try and make sure that their carry can outscale that of Virtus.pro. Utilize the fact that you're going to have this insane farming speed, insane damage from the Ogre Magnus. But unfortunately, VP, they picked this Winter Wyvern, which now means it is a very good counter to these physical damage lineups. And when you've already shown that you've got a double hero pairing to enable a big physical damage output, the Wyvern just naturally will counter this with a Cold Embrace, with the Winter's Curse.
It's already looking a bit tougher as well, right? Because you think of Lycan as this hero that can be in your base by 20 minutes, probably before you have your Aghanims on the Magnus, and then also, once you do have that skill on a 4-second cooldown, you are against the Lycan that, 1, can likely build a BKB early, but 2, in Shapeshift, is going to be pretty uncontrollable.
I will say now, though, with the changes to Lycan, he won't be... You mentioned about being in your base. I think the key thing is to note he provides a large amount of disruption in the gameplay, where depending on what lane he's in, because of course VP could still run him in the mid lane. Like they've done that in one game before. They put Resolution mid on Lycan because not many heroes can actually threaten the Lycan in mid, and he can just get good farm. So he provides a lot of gank and pressure, but because of the changes to how, he doesn't really provide structural damage until he has the items. He provides a lot of damage to getting onto those supports, or that Magnus who doesn't have that Ags or that Blink or that early item to kind of disconnect himself from the ulti Lycan. So
that's true. I guess the other way to look at this is, while it is still it's still feasible to do this kind of Necro build up, Helm Dominator, we could see the physical damage Lycans coming back, right? Whether like AC, BKB Basher, these type of items to just allow him to fight.
Yeah, he's just going to be a very disruptive cog in the piece that is Virtus.pro. Piece? That's not the phrase.
In the machine. There's
machine, yeah. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Because you stick cogs in machines typically.
Yeah,
or you stick them in heroes if you clockwork.
I completely brain fired on that one.
5 seconds.
Okay, you had a few ways. I thought you'd go for a clockwork reference. You are a dirt man.
I could have.
Chen. Okay, this is starting to look like a bit of a hefty push lineup, right?
Timbersaw, that is a
D pusher.
A mighty fine pick, but again, HellRaisers, they pick this Timbersaw when they have second pick, which means Virtus.pro can always react.
Straight away, in fact.
With the Viper.
Was it not HellRaisers that done this exact same thing and got punished for it with the Timbersaw picked at this phase?
They did, yes, correct.
Straight away, once again, it seems HellRaisers, I mean, despite getting to this grand final, maybe not learning from that drafting era, because Timber is a decent hero. It doesn't feel like you see all these creeps, right? But you don't see strength heroes per se. So it's not even a golden tier Timbersaw game yet, right? And you pick it this early.
The only difference is, in terms of the Viper Timbersaw matchup, is the magic resistance is now based off of his poison attack rather than the Nevertoxin, which means in terms of fights, it used to be really easy before to throw out a couple Nevertoxin, Timbersaw would be stunned inside them. But now the Viper has to focus the Timbersaw. He has to be the one actually right-clicking him to be able to kind of eat through some of the tankiness of Timbersaw.
Yes, but the laning hasn't really changed much, right? Like, Timbersaw, especially playing from the Radiant side, I don't feel there's been any buffs to his ability to escape with trees there, whereas Dai did get a slight buff having trees on the top side of the lane.
I think that the biggest change outside of the map would be the fact that the cooldown on your Nevertoxin has gone up now. I think it's now like 12 or 13 or something. It's nearly double.
Yeah.
Double or more.
It feels like they've shifted Viper to be back to his original form, which was a lane bullier more than I'm just going to farm the jungle really easily, guys.
Exactly. So it's now going to be, but I think that's perfectly fine still, because you get to just CS. You're going to be able to bully and maybe go for more points in the poison attack. So it's not the worst change for Viper. He has to play a little bit more aggressive, but
no one's already shown he's willing to play that playstyle, right? He just had a Huskar game, so if any player in this game is ready for a bully type laner, it's no one.
It's simply HellRaisers don't have a way of going high ground right now, and they need to pick their carry, which I like the fact that they've allowed their carry to be picked last. It's about picking this win condition, and it's being able to outscale VP. You know VP make mistakes when they go high ground. They got a little bit greedy, but now...
All right, this
lineup. It's such a tempo lineup. You're going to have potentially Viper, like...
I mean, could this still be like could we see him Rezo play Lycan? Could this be an offlane Lycan, safe lane Storm Spirit, or do you think it definitely has to be Storm mid?
No, I think so. In the previous patch, Storm, there was times in which it went offlane, reference the good old Chaos times. Like, I think Kezu played it a couple times. We had Matu played side lane. It was all just or VT Faded played it as well. So there is flexibility for the Storm Spirit to be on a side lane. He does good damage and he can just farm up. Right now, all 3 cores on Virtus.pro could go to any lane, depending on what HellRaisers pick right here.
I think the bigger thing is you're trying to, if you're VP, do you want to get early vision out to try and spot Timber's lane so you can get the Viper matchup, or don't you think that's too important?
I think it depends on HellRaisers' last pick. Like, if there's one still key left to their draft, and VP, as much as they have this good early game tempo, they got this aggression. They don't have this big win condition. They just have, Brawl. You saw in the last game, they had a nice well-rounded draft that could brawl the entire time. This is the same type of draft, but it just lacks a little bit more control. So trying to get that damage out there, it might be hard if HellRaisers are able to disconnect, or if they're able to start the fight.
Well, they're definitely in the time trying to figure this one out. Here's the mystery you mentioned, which is the VP. All these heroes could lane anywhere, really.
And for HellRaisers, you'd think maybe like a PA, but again, with the Viper, the break, you're then waiting for a BKB to come online. So I think CK, okay.
All right, not a bad hero, actually. CK did get a fairly decent amount of tweaks, actually. They did bring the damage down on his Chaos Strike a little bit, but they did buff Reality Rift back to its previous form. So it definitely has more presence on the lane in terms of threat, whereas previously it was more just about sustaining, right? Like, this hero got 2 points in his passive, and it's like, it doesn't matter how hard I hit him, he's always sustaining.
But the break from the Viper will take away the crit, so depending on how Elmo starts these fights, if the Viper's able to get that Nevertoxin onto the ground, then potentially might mitigate a little bit of damage, but this is a much closer game, I think, in terms of draft. I think the last game was very much... It was hard for HellRaisers to... Outside of lane, it was hard for them to come back into the game because their cooldowns restricted them. But this game, sure they have RP, sure they have the Chaos Knight ultimate, but I think they have a little bit more brawl potential and laning presence to not feel so pressured.
No, true. I mean, you look at HellRaisers draft this time around, you compare it across the VPs, the big kind of thing you notice straight away is one team has a lot of stuns available. The other one is more kind of about having these loose fights, right? With a Lycan, with a Viper, you just kind of want to slowly whittle your opponents down. Whereas HellRaisers clearly have intent to hard commit quickly.
Yeah, VP for sure. They have the potential to leave laning phase and just go pick off after pick off and punish HellRaisers, maybe TPing to a fight like one by one and just that kind of movement. So VP for sure. They have a draft that can be extremely punishing. Lycan, if he has a good game, sorry, gets those early items, then you then have the threat of building damage. And with the Chen, of course, you always have you're gonna always outnumber in these earlier engagements. So it's it's critical. We learned it from the first game. HellRaisers laning phase was their downfall. This game,
It needs to be their upside.
yes, exactly, and there needs to be improvements from it.
And you think maybe it could be with the amount of stuns they have on their team, but oh no, the smoke movement. No one. I mean, he was just walking over to place his ward. That's the worst part. And now they're pinged because they think he's placed a ward where they were.
It's nice to see that HellRaisers changing up their player style. We've watched them play multiple games now, and it's always been a very static. You go to your bounty runes, your off lane goes there, your safe lane's bottom, maybe your mid lane kind of connects on either side. But it's nice to see that they are willing to make some changes to the initial play style because they need to fix this laning phase, and unfortunately, it doesn't play out. But they're being proactive.
Indeed, you can already see VP. They are more focused on getting good lane matchups to begin with. So Epileptic is shown top, but Rezo, he's also top. They're just looking for the show so they can get the prime matchup in their favor. They regardless definitely have no one in the mid though, which will be up against the Magnus here, being ran by Bobo. A little bit of change up. This time around, Nyx will be on the Timbersaw. And that actually might make them think that they are getting the optimal matchup for the Viper, but instead they will just be left with a still decent matchup, which should be switched over quickly as Epileptic Kid TPs to the mid. And Chen will call him to the bot. The big advantage, of course, still of having Chen in your draft at level 1.
Yeah, just making sure that they don't have to waste all their TPs. Because if they both TP'd there, then HellRaisers can do the swap without needing to actually... Like, they can do it after, so they'll get their matchup they want.
Yeah, this is kind of the awkward part about playing against a Chen, is you just realize straight away you can't play musical lanes. So, start off with Epileptic Kid. I mean, despite TP into the lane, hasn't affected CS, already off to a nice start. Already actually beating Magnus in the first wave.
It's just flexibility in the VP cores, being able to pick up the Storm, let Epileptic Kid play it. I'm sure he doesn't want to play Viper. That's a no-one hero, so it'd be interesting to see how they can actually use this less kind of late-game draft.
Oh, Miposhka. Okay, they actually might be able to get that, but it's just awkward with the tree line. And that'll be a salve up for Miposhka. Does this feel like the lane where you can actually really pressure hard as an Ogre, or is it just going to be this type of lane that is impossible for even an Ogre Magi to bully at 1?
Yeah, this is going to be hard. As soon as you walk up to lane, especially when Chen gets level 2, you're not really going to be doing much. This Viper's damage is too annoying, or damage over time. And if at 7 minutes, if VP find a mango tree, this Viper, he's set for life.
The dream. We'll see if teams have actually woken up from the first 2 days and know to deny those mango trees when they see them placed.
Things though, they now give increased vision. So
yes.
If you just place it deep in a tree line whilst Elmo's being gone on top.
It felt like they were it felt like the Valve team were actually trying to say, no, please do actually deny these. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, by the way, there was a skew back and the first blood on Storm. But it's a complete thought. It's like they just sat there like, okay, no one's denying these mango trees. We've really got to wake people up to the fact that they are a very powerful form of vision that never disappears.
Yeah, I think you can utilize it like an outpost and get that deep vision in a tree line because it has flying vision. And then there's no way they're going to go into a tree line to find it. So
Rezo top, 2 seconds stun, light strike array follow up, and they'll be able to get the kill. And only has 1 tango, but well, you're 2-point chaos strike, so you don't care.
Yeah, when you bring more stuns to a lane, it's a lot easier. So I'm liking the start from HellRaisers.
Yeah, I think you're right about the mango tree will seem to change. Like, for example, if you look at the Dire top shrine, before we saw placements like here in the open very obvious. Yeah. I've seen some players practicing placements like here in the trees along the edge where it's almost impossible to spot them now.
There's 1 Quelling Blade, 1 Mango Tree. You could get a good board for most part of the game. And Resolution going on again top.
Yeah. Being pressured all the time. I mean, this is one of the things that make Chaos Knight frustrating. Is it's always that passive that means even against a hero like a Lycan, you trade effectively, and eventually Lycan's the one that runs out of health.
Yeah, it's just the issue when you have a Wyvern support.
What?
He doesn't provide that much.
Nyx just got ran down. Speaking of supports that aren't providing much, Miposhka.
Yeah. You have this in both lanes, so you've got this Wyvern top who's providing a little bit of harass, but not too much. And then bottom, this Ogre, he just can't come to the lane. So this Timbersaw pretty much has to solo against this Viper, and the Viper will be able to bully him.
It's not like you have this lane matchup where you get a point in Bloodlust and suddenly it's really enabled, like Wraith King, for example. It's a Timbersaw. He just wants to be left alone to farm and just tank up damage. He doesn't really run people down on the lane until like level 6.
And the difference is, because he's playing a side lane Timbersaw, he's not going to be pressuring off of the 5-minute catapult. So the playstyle of this Timbersaw will change a little bit. And is Nyx going to be able to adapt the way that he let's say he plays mid a lot. Is he going to be able to adapt the way that he plays Timbersaw from the side lane? It'll be interesting to see.
Definitely a tough one. Timber, especially being the type of hero that relies on a decent chunk of XP and a good timing on 6, because that is when kill potential starts to actually occur. I mean, sometimes we
so
even see
obnoxious. Look at this.
I'm on the top, by the way. These body blocks are good, but there's the LSA, and Elmo might still go down to the wolves at this rate. He needs one more hit. We'll salve up just in time, and
oh, the wolf got the salve.
His last dying wish as he goes down is to take that salve with him. But you mentioned the bot lane. Nyx once again just pressured out.
Yeah, thanks.
Luckily, Miposhka found a use as a support in this lane. He had a salve.
Nice.
Time to become a jungler on Yorogo now.
But like yesterday, he'd be finding neutral items. Now he's got to wait an extra minute and a half. This is the type of game where that early neutral item might allow Timber to have a little bit more comfort within the laning phase.
Yeah, it's the fact that you're now punished a bit for losing your lane, which is nice to see, as before it was like the fallback plan was just a little bit too good. Nyx trying to move away. Too little too late though. Safety's under the tower and you're leaving further and further away.
It was body blocked by the pool. That's very unfortunate.
When a support is trying too hard to find relevance, this is what it looks like. And now Miposhka, he might join him in the grave. We'll go for the TP back to the tower, but that's a lot of damage done.
To the tower, though.
He's going to... Oh, that was close. 40 HP left. God bless Ogre regen. Any other support would be dead right now.
Meanwhile, while all this was happening, this deep ward in the jungle, this radiant ward, showed the courier for the Lycan and allowed the Lina to get another kill.
And now they're rotating up here. Lina might have got killed, but now she's the one dead, and Elmo will die as well. Epileptic Kid setting up 2 kills off the back of that level 6 Storm Spirit rotation, and with a regen rune. Oh, they tower pressure again. I mean, it is a Lycan lane. With the catapult, they could easily take down this tier 1. Meanwhile, bot lane.
They need to try and find some trades somewhere on the map. They need to
allow
themselves to have room within the game.
They're trying, and there's the TP. Nyx, he might be a bit too deep all of a sudden. I mean, going to the trees, some heroes, that is their strong point. But for a Timbersaw, this kind of backfires quickly because your escape plan is all of a sudden cut off. And that's what they'll do to him. They'll cut off his life supply and kill him. Rotation from VP on point so far, whether it's the Storm Spirit from the mid or the positioning of these supports. This Timber is starting to get worrying, because if you end up in the middle of a discussion here and we're saying that a Timbersaw isn't going to have a game, that feels like that destroys most drafts, right? Unless he's distracted like 5 heroes for 10 minutes.
I think if Timbersaw can find some farm, then he will be able to at least punish the Lycan at the high ground points of the game. The issue right now is simply the tempo VP can provide. It comes online a lot quicker than HellRaisers. So if the lanes go even and the HellRaisers can find farm during the VP aggression, then it's going to be a close game. If VP, they continue to take these towers, or pressure these towers, sorry, and can get a little bit more control, then it might be too hard for HellRaisers to even find this critical farm that they need.
Bobo looks like he wants to fight though. He has got the RP, being slowed down a little bit, and now There's going to be stacks building up into the Viper Strike across. Looking for the play here. The Dragon's going to be there with Cold Embrace. No one protected in his own Never Toxin zone. And on the side, Epileptic Kid looking to snipe out Lina. Solo will go down. No one is unapproachable. Buyback out from the Chen. Light Striker Ray does get dodged out by Epileptic Kid. With that DD, not even Elmo wants to fight here. The Phantasm didn't do much. Both supports dead already on the side of HellRaisers, and they might lose a cause. Elmo is being chased onto. 2-second stun. Looks like he'll make it out. Timber as well, but the tier 1 tower is definitely going to fall to Rezo. Nyx. Maybe I spoke too soon. Nice LSA
Viper
on the 2. Beautifully done. Viper. No one. One more hit with the Cold Embrace just in time. The RP follow-up trying to bring them down, but they're living. And the control. LSA this time on a free. Timbersaw. Nyx has a game. 3 kills for him. They're going to get a 4th, maybe even a 5th. As Rezo dies, they're going to wipe the entirety of VP and keep the tier 1 tower alive.
It's the over-aggression from VP there. Like, the initial saves coming out from Wyvern, really keeping the Viper into the fight. And then after that, it's then the dive into the tier 2. If it was a simple reset tier 1 tower, then that would have been playing into the strength of VP. I think they're overestimating what they can actually bring at this stage of the game. They have to respect the RP. They have to respect the damage of the Timbersaw. Sure, he's not had good farm, but he's still got the levels. He's still got, like, he's level 7. He's got that chakra, so...
True. And now look at his net worth looking pretty cozy, actually up there with the big boys. And the other thing, you know, we mentioned this last game when there was a Magnus, like they need to hit a good RP. And the difference in that game is VP, they didn't give that good RP until they're in the base. This is a tier 1 tower still so early in the game. HellRaisers actually given a breath of life, and a hero that was looking like he wasn't going to be relevant in this game. Nyx all of a sudden up there on the net worth chart, flexing hard.
And this is the type of moves that HellRaisers need to get into that mid game, which they couldn't find in the previous game. This is looking a lot better for them.
Viper did just have the Veil brought out. If you imagine that fight mid, if it had been there with a Veil, maybe it's a different story because his heroes die quick enough. So maybe there's a turnaround opportunity. You need to work fast. The RP's available again in 35 seconds. And Phantasm in 10.
If you look at the top outpost, look at the vision from this Mango Tree plus outpost combination.
Oh.
That is so much vision, it's insane.
Forward. And that's actually the other thing. Like, right after they took that fight and wiped VP, they found the Mango Tree as well.
It's actually insane the amount of vision they have in this top area.
It should be more or less approachable, right? Like, we talked about how many stuns HellRaisers have as well. You do have to be careful with your Timbersaw as well. This is another reason you put it out on the side here, is because you're worried your Timber's going to come by and accidentally chop it down.
That's why you put it deep, so you can't actually do this.
Like, not even the stupidest of Timbers could ruin this game plan now. You hope.
I see now.
One
would hope.
Like, take notes, ladies and gentlemen. When you're in a pub game with a Timber you don't know, this is the way you place Mango Trees. Because you know if you place it anywhere near a creep camp, he will accidentally cut it down. Oh, that's a good feeling as a Storm. Got the Arcane Ring. No, it's not much in the grand scheme of things, but you're Storm Spirit. Every little mana counts.
It's something. I was thinking, if you look at the vision right now from both teams, HellRaisers, they've got a little bit more split vision. They're covering both the bottom river and the top side. So they're, like, most jungle entry points, they're playing defensive. They played defensive this entire tournament. VP, on the other hand, they've committed all their vision for this bottom tier 1 tower they took earlier. So now they need to make another move into the Radiant side to get some better wards out. Otherwise, they're going to struggle to get these key fights that they want to take.
The good news is your opponent's playing on the other side of the map. The bad news for VP is this stun control. Cold Embrace as well. You're going to get him low. Winter's Curse coming out, though, to try and protect him. Just about enough time with the Hand of God to get Epileptic Kid out and away. However, Save won't be so lucky. He's going for the TP out, but they should be able to get the stun. No!
He will be.
I mean, he had vision. He just kept running the wrong way. They will at least get the tower, though.
That's a good TP from Save.
Definitely. Saves his life. But still tier 1 tower falling. Winter's Curse was used as well to keep Epileptic Kid alive. I'm not sure. They could actually push in for the tier 2 here. Timber's defending bots. There's no pressure from Lycan there.
I think it's tier 2. If they go for the aggression, it's going to be scary. They need to have all heroes because VP, they're the ones that come online a little bit earlier. HellRaisers, if they want to take an early fight, they have to have all 5 heroes, and they want to be the ones making the jump.
Things are going to get harder soon as well, because you look at Epileptic Kid, he's almost got the card complete, almost has level 2 Ball Lightning. This is when Storm becomes a nuisance. And when you consider no one and the poison attack, the way it works now with a Veil of Discord, expect some long-range Ball Lightning is just insta-killing people.
I'm ready for it. I'm down.
That's
The
actually
late
scary
game,
damage.
like with a Bloodstone. Oh,
Good lord.
especially with the Bloodstone and Kaya, but being made from Kaya now.
I feel like Storm is on the return because of that Bloodstone change.
Potentially, I'm ready for it.
Mid.
Here is so
Look
fun to watch.
at this smoke rotation. Nyx spotted, and he tried to timber chain at the wrong moment. Moving in, skewer RP, but they can't do anything with it. The Winner's Curse coming out as well. Magnus now killing the man he tried to save. Betrayal is a cruel, cruel experience as they die together.
This is the punishment that VP can bring. As soon as that Timber Sword's picked off and the RP is used, VP know that there is no real punishment from the side of HellRaisers, so they can just go deep into jungle, maybe push up bot, and potentially secure this tier 2 for them. Or they can reset. Both are on the table.
Looks like they're just going to starve out the jungle. Both teams, in terms of where their vision, you already mentioned, they're playing in opposite areas almost all times. So HellRaisers is still prioritizing this top left quadrant, which, I mean, the investment mango tree, everything else there, the tier 1 tower still, it's no surprise.
Like, but we've watched so many HellRaisers games, and they seem to always want to play like this, non-stop.
Yes.
They seem to never want to really invade. And I don't know if it's a product of laning phase, sometimes feeling awkward or feeling like they're behind, but they always just defend their own jungle and their defensive tri-camp.
Yeah, they're turtles.
They are, but there's sometimes where you could make these aggressive moves, and I think it could be a detriment to some of their games where they always play the same style of defensive where it doesn't always pay out. This game, it's a little bit closer.
Sometimes you got, you MMO player styles, right? Some people, they play all the different roles. Some people just want to play tank. Some people just want to play, like rogue and murder everyone. VP, we've seen their flexibility, but as you say, HellRaisers, they're definitely the guy just trying to absorb all the damage and just trying to buy all the time.
For sure, and this playstyle, even though it looks potentially underwhelming in certain scenarios, it does allow them to always have some impact throughout the entire game. They're always going to have items and levels on their arrows. The issue is simply they never get to make proactive plays to get their own control of the map elsewhere. So.
And this is kind of a typical byproduct of usually these tier 2 and tier 3 teams we see where they think about how to survive. They don't think about how to win necessarily. Whereas when we talk about teams like Secret, Namiga, even VP, they're looking for a way to win.
I accept that, but I think in this scenario, this might just be HellRaisers' style in winning. They want to make sure that they're not in bad positions and picked off. Unfortunately, I think if their draft doesn't mirror their gameplay, then obviously it can not always play out. But you saw yesterday, it does work sometimes. And this game, it's a little bit rough, but it could work.
Oh, they actually got the kill on the Roche, but the Aegis is going to be picked up by the Lycan, and they did commit the RP. Trouble for them as the Timber goes down as a result of it. At least they snatched the gold away. Bobo, he gets caught out as well. No way to protect himself anymore after he used the skewer and RP. Only halfway towards, well, actually past the halfway mark towards the Ags, but still not online.
It might catch a CK as well.
Almo. Actually snipe his core out first, and now they'll drag him across. Make sure he can't escape alongside his pet. Both in the grave.
Okay, I think the final point we'll make based on the playstyle would be, I think VP have realized this, and obviously through just watching the replays, and this is why you can see in both these games they've got this high tempo aggressive lineup, because it just plays against the playstyle of HellRaisers.
Yeah, I think the point that I was trying to highlight was that when we talked about this patch over the last few days, the kind of recurring theme is proactivity in the first 20-25 minutes, right? And HellRaisers, this playstyle was probably better in the previous patch, where you could kind of play a little bit more lax, and you were aware that the earliest objectives didn't matter. Teams like OG proved that with TI, where it's like early bounty runes don't matter at all. But Outposts are a perfect example of something you can't ignore and have to play around. And especially with these kind of early invasions and getting rid of the tier 1 towers, they're crucial.
He just... okay.
All right, we've seen these experiences before. He doesn't care. It's his name, Claw. He says, no, give that to one of the other guys. Right click.
Yeah, someone else is going for it. No. Oh,
if only Timber still had his damage talent.
Well, that's why the value of like these Chens, the Storms, these heroes, they have such high mobility that You don't have to be directly at the outpost to be able to defend it. Chen can always bring someone else in. Storm can zip in. So,
do you think it's maybe also HellRaisers prioritize this playstyle because we talked about earlier on in the patch people having different kind of concepts, and do you think maybe they kind of bought into this idea of late game with these high tier neutral items and also level 30s?
potentially so. I think, again, it's a little bit too early in the patch to understand if it's good or bad. I know in this game it's being punished, but I think the last 2 days when the games that they were winning, it's because the drafts, when HellRaisers gets to play against someone whose draft isn't as aggressive, it's when they come online. You know, they make the really good moves, they have good farming patterns, and overall they have those comebacks. But VP, they're a team that they adapt so quickly based on each opponent that you get punished very quickly.
Yep, look how quickly they respond to top. All in a different heroes. The shapeshift is used to chase down the ogre. A catch from Epileptic Kid on the Chaos Knight as well. Lina could be running deeper to escape. The TP out by Chaos Knight just about in time. Actually, no.
Still dying in base.
Oh, that looks so close. He was on
Lina
400
getting picked
HP
off as well.
Oh no. I mean, Lina could go for the TP out. But it's too late now. She's definitely getting out of Epileptic Kid. I think that was a miss toggle by Chaos Knight in the base. He still had 400 HP. Oh boy.
It toggles aside this.
Look at Stash.
HellRaisers.
Look at Stash as well. He had a fairy fire at the ready. He was going to try for some sort of cheeky regen play. He still had a lot of time though. He was on 400 HP on that armlet.
Yeah, you know the game's difficult when you're talking about fairy fire armlet plays in your own base. This is the type of aggression that VP can bring out with this lineup.
Well, if you can buy a little bit more time, HellRaisers might eventually be ready because, you know, they are going for that heart on the Chaos Knight. We've seen this as a type of hero. Doesn't farm the fastest, but the item value is kind of through the roof due to the nature of his ultimate. Sadly, not a good game for Ags, so unlikely to see that on the Chaos Knight. I tell you, the new Ags actually seems pretty lethal. I wasn't sold at first, but you still get your own number of illusions. You just get one of each of your teammates as well.
I can see potential for it to be good. Maybe.
I was thinking maybe in like the 4 role with the return of the armor reduction and the stun buffs.
Again, it sounds pretty crazy. Like it could be good. Theory crafting it has its potential, but can CK farm? No, not really. Can CK play the first 10 minutes aggressively as support? Yes. Does he fall off? Maybe. Yeah, okay, I'm 42% convinced.
Well, you know, lifesteal support has similar issues.
I'm 94% convinced that was a good support. The recent changes kind of make it a little bit awkward.
It was pretty busted, especially the HP at the level 1 infest. And the fact that you could just infest out and instantly jump back in your target, like, right, I've done my part for the game, I cleared a creep wave.
It was so majestic, honestly.
I mean, I messaged you last night. I was like, this support is making me want to just stop playing. And then Gaben heard me. He blessed me with a patch. Which didn't touch Magnus either. And guess what? This Magnus, he has the Ags now.
I think if HellRaisers can take a fight in their base, utilize this Ag skewer, get another one of those key pickoffs like they did in the previous game.
The pickoffs on the other side, actually. Nyx into the base. But they'll just go for the buildings instead. They go, wait, we have an army. And Nyx has barely any mana left. And now can't even walk. Spamming out.
HellRaisers in the same spot as the last game. This is going to be the same defense. If they can somehow pull out a HellRaisers level defense, and
the key is whether you can bait Epileptic Kid in and stun him, right? Because if that happens, you know VP will fold in to try and protect him, and that is when you punish. But this game around, it's not Huskar, right? It's a much more elusive hero in the Storm Spirit.
And you do lack. Sure, you got stuns, but they're all. The cast times of all these stuns are pretty high, so it's not as simple as like a Hex.
No. Like, Ogre Magi is maybe the easiest to hit, but that's still a wind-up in which a good Storm Spirit player is unlikely to get caught.
He's got to raise his chunky arm so high, he's got to like all the way up.
It's kind of like his broadcast, like, guys, I'm going to stun him right now. And it's like, oh, I'll just
He's already zipped away, yeah.
Bye.
Okay, HellRaisers making an aggressive move, smoking up right now.
Oh. This is
acting as the bait.
This is the one that could maybe work if they were here in time, because he has that Yules. They follow him. which they are doing right now. There's the Yules. Can they get close enough to the LSA? Stun comes out. The Wind's Curse being used. Moving. The RP connects onto 2. The follow-up is going to be good enough. Phantasm to drag him out. But the Cold Embrace to try and keep him alive doesn't matter. Storm Spirit is down. No one. He needs more assistance. Buyback comes out. Viper down to half HP already. The physical damage is overwhelming him. Bobo trying to move away. He's going to be fine. They've lost the Viper. Bobo skewers the back line, trying to move away as Rezo chases through the shapeshift. And now Storm, he's free to unload. He's chasing for more Chaos Knight already there. Magnus goes down as well. And Seiyu, he can't survive it. Left alone without his cause. He will die as Nyx tries to get out. Sure, you survive as a Timber, but you bait through your heroes into death. They did at least force a big buyback onto the Storm Spirit.
This was the exact play that they needed to keep themselves in the game. And I don't want to beat on about it. The only issue I find with this is simply this proactive play is a little bit too late, where potentially VP, the resources that they need to use to win these fights, Storm brought back, sure. Aegis will be up relatively soon. But they have no RP again, so there's still no pressure. They're still able to farm quite well. So it's... If HellRaisers can make this play, maybe once more, get the Storm, I think Roshan's the key thing. Kill the Storm, let him die back, and ensure that he doesn't get the Aegis. If VP get the Aegis and Storm, then this individual fight is then a win for VP. If HellRaisers can secure the Roshan, then this fight we just watched is then a HellRaisers win.
That's the thing, that this recent fight highlights a big issue for HellRaisers, and that's save. Which... I mean, he is definitely fulfilling his name with these Cold Embraces and these Winter's Curses, and that's the big problem. They need to... It feels like if they don't kill Wyverns an entry kill, and this has always been the classical reason Wyverns felt so strong, you really can't take these fights. Yeah. I mean, you're committing these big ultimates, and you're only getting half the value, and then they're turning around on you every time.
So yeah, it's this next 5 minutes will be critical for HellRaisers. What will their positioning be for Roshan? How will they push out the lanes? Hopefully, the Magnus doesn't die.
He'd be a hard kill, considering Skewer's on a 4-second cooldown. I don't even know what the plan was there.
It's so majestic to watch, actually.
It is. It is fabulous. The fact it has no mana cost as well. It's like, just build your right-click items. It's all good now. Magnus is back, baby.
Nyx in the top lane.
Yup, getting low. They can't quite finish him off, though. Poison stacks will run out and he'll be able to back off. Back to the mango tree.
Mango tree.
He almost cut it. Look at the trees that are missing right here. It was close. So many mangoes. We're past the point where a support is happy when he walks in and finds them, though. Jump in. Control Ogre. Yules coming out. They could LSA. It's a little bit late. No, they patiently wait a little too long. And now Ogre's dead. They have to retreat. That was a hesitation from Save. He could have got the LSA in time. Maybe felt like it wouldn't have done too much, though. But they minimized casualties at least. It's only the Ogre Magi who falls in the end. Problem is, there wasn't really a hard commitment of big spells from VP there. Now they have Shapeshift off cooldown again.
Yeah, they used Phantasm on Chaos Knight. That had the potential, if they hit the LSA on the Storm Spirit, taking him out the fight. The Lycan didn't have ultimate. VP, they did have vision advantage in that fight as well. But that could have been such a good fight for HellRaisers. But unfortunately, when you break it down to that key stun onto the Storm Spirit, when you rely on only 1 or 2 heroes to be able to hit them, he's so elusive.
True. Okay. Oh, jump in. Troll on Delina. He'll be able to bring her down in time. She's dead. And they'll even D-ward as well.
This deep ward in the mid lane on the tier 2 from Solo. It's honestly, vision wins games, and when you have such high tempo, high mobility heroes that can utilize this vision, it's this key pick off. Roshan being up, can HellRaisers contest? You lack one of your key stuns. It's now going to be a free Roshan, and we spoke about this. The next Roshan is the deciding point. Storm bought back in that previous big 5-on-5. Him dying without buyback and not being able to obtain the Aegis provides HellRaisers a win condition. Or at least a timing in which they can leave the base and be proactive. But now they're huddling in their base again.
That's the thing. It's just been kind of the recurring theme is them just going defensive all the time. And you have to now. And I mean, Storm Spirit, one of the best carries of Aegis, can just go deep and punish straight away. By the way, there is a repair kit that was ignored by Rezo. That is VP's state of mind right now. Like, they don't care. It's like, how do you get out and take buildings?
What are they repairing? Their
tier 1s, maybe? That's literally it, right? There's no reason. Oh, I always find that item amusing because in 95% of scenarios, it feels underwhelming now being a tier 3 item.
but it's pretty nice for like when you want to defend your tower without committing the buyback, not the fortification.
cliff,
Sorry,
yeah.
yeah, you can then just clear the creep wave. Sure, you don't take away the damage coming in from the heroes, but you take away the creep wave, and the creep wave is the key thing for any push.
Okay, let's be realistic though, P.
Yep.
That right there, that change is the reason they killed Treant.
Killed Treant?
Yeah, they took his living armor away from being global and the tower healing, right? Because they want a repair kit.
Okay. True, you want to RNG away to a repair kit. Come on, man. Treant's still Bay. He's still there.
But really? Losing the global? You're not...
I think he has his place. He hasn't been played too much yet, but I think he could have his place in terms of being a little bit aggressive, being a little bit of a nuisance.
He seems like a decent bully on the lane, I'd say, is what I'm seeing at the moment.
It's just the skill cap potentially has gone up. Before, you don't have to really think, you press living armor, but now you have to know what the rotations are, where are you going to be placed, are you going to get the living armor off? Again, I haven't really looked into him in too much detail. I've not been seeing him in any pro games, but...
That's true. I think the way that I'm looking at him is maybe powerful is because if you have Leech Seed and his new ability, 1 point each, just 50% slow. That seems strong. But yeah, we've yet to see him. So teams not willing to experiment. I mean, this is how we feel, right? Like when teams, the patch just drops, they're like, okay, things we're familiar with, but things that aren't so different that it just feels uncomfortable now, right?
Yeah, it's about trying to keep your playstyle as similar as possible and then adapting that over time rather than making the hero picks different.
Silent start, in a lot of trouble. RP comes down to 3, dragging them in. The Phantasm there, so the win is cursed. Magnus, he's signed to his own teammates. The Phantasm army has killed him off. Timber dead as well, buys back straight away. Elmo with the BKB, but the Viper Strike out again. They're kiting away from him. Laguna comes out, though. They bring down the Lycan, dead for 85 seconds. Epileptic Kid, well, he just about gets out. Still has the Aegis, not willing to burn it just yet, which means he's leaving behind his comrade in arms. No one eats the cheese. Turnaround opportunity to Timber as he did buy back, but they jump Ogre first. They go in. Epileptic Kid, LSA will get rid of that Aegis. Buy back out from the Ogre. Nyx is broke again. They're trying to stun up. They can't. Though. We've mentioned this before. They didn't have the LSA. It was on cooldown at that point, which means they couldn't catch the storm. And now he reinitiates onto the Ogre Magi, who did buy back. LSA dodged out. They find the kill. Die back onto the Ogre. Timber in a lot of trouble as well as he did buy back. Can't afford to go down like this. Chain to get to the tree. But guess what? Hot on your tail with no mana left. Doesn't matter. It's enough to kill him. 100 seconds without your Timber. You get rid of the biggest pusher in the Lycan, but there's still 4 heroes from VP still alive.
HellRaisers really demonstrated how their high ground defense is always very strong. You have to respect it, but then it's the overextension of can we catch a storm post Aegis? They didn't have an LSA to chain it onto the Aegis respawn, so then they couldn't follow up with any other stuns. At that point, potentially a hard reset might be in place, but it's so easy for VP to take these fights because they don't have these big cooldowns.
Storm just got full mana. Chen brought him back, which means to go straight for this Lina, who's silent start, but most definitely dead. And look at this, another kill on the side. Bobo goes down. BKB. Elmo.
This Wyvern doing so much work in every fight.
It's ridiculous. The amount of sustain, the amount of heal, and Elmo, he just gets whittled down. That's going to be meaty racks. Even more heroes dead, and HellRaisers are crumbling. GG, they know it's over. Game 2 to VP. HellRaisers now up against the ropes. And Virtus.pro proving why they're looking like the favorites.
I think this game outside. Okay, so let's ignore the actual game and let's go back to the draft. Let's go. How did these teams get to the point where they're having to try and play these lineups? HellRaisers, they showed in the first game, they first picked this Tiny, and they ended up with their draft having an Ogre Magnus to try and enable him. Okay, so that's one idea. That's one concept. It's a very well-known idea of enabling one physical damage. You move into the second game. Virtus.pro, they first pick a Lycan. The Lycan shows we're going to have tempo. We're going to have this guy who's just going to be in your face. We're going to be aggressive, trying to play against your playstyle. And then HellRaisers then go, okay, we're going to pick Ogre and Magnus again. But the Ogre Magnus, it doesn't have flexibility in what it does. It's always going to be the same lineup. You're going to have, you showed it in the first game, he's going to buy an Axe. He's going to do, like, try and be annoying. Try and skew it in when you come to high ground or something. He's going to enable some physical damage, and then you pick this Wyvern from after. So it's you first pick a Lycan, you see to your heroes, you pick Wyvern. This Wyvern pick in first phase just completely takes away the whole idea of HellRaisers draft. and they don't adapt their draft going through. And because of this first phase Wyvern pick, I think single-handedly, outside of course, the Storm having a good game, the Viper just being unkillable, it's these curses, these cold embraces that just allowed VP to just demolish most of these fights.
No, you're right. I mean, you think about the way that VP's draft plays. It's quite loose, right? The Storm Spirit can jump the back lines. The Rezo can kite around on the Lycan with the Shapeshift. And then, of course, yeah, your Viper's your frontliner. But then look at HellRaisers. Timbersaw wants to be deep. Magnus wants to be deep. Chaos Knight want to be deep. But the way they do it is as a giant clump of death. And sadly, because that win is cursed, I mean, we saw it in their own base. The Phantasm Illusions murder your own cause and work against you. As you said, Wyvern, so early, the perfect pick, and it just once again felt like HellRaisers maybe a little bit stubborn with their draft, like fixed in their ways. They had an idea of how they wanted to play the game, and we usually talk about this. Like,
I just think they showed their hand too early.
Yeah.
Drafts are always about how much information can you withhold from your opponent to try and bait out a pick or bait out a ban. And unfortunately, when you Ogre Magnus in first phase, it's hard to adapt those picks into something that has room for alternate playstyles, simply because it's such a classic pairing for this like physical damage core. So again, I think yesterday HellRaisers draft, it had flexibility, it showed robustness, it had like reasoning. They had, let's say, like Coddle Nightstalker. They played off of strong heroes that had timings that allowed them to cross the river. In these two games, they've had lineups that are underwhelming, and they can never cross the river. They're always playing defensive. You see it from their vision. You see it from like the heat map of their heroes' locations. Like they only ever move across the river once they win a team fight. They push out a lane. They look at the tier 2 and go, actually, it's 20 minutes in the game. They're already respawned. Let's get back, lads. You know. So I think game 3, HellRaisers, change up your style. Please don't go for Ogre Magnus. Get a bit of aggression. VP, both games they've got early aggression. They know HellRaisers want to kind of sit back for a little bit. Go against that. Go for an early aggressive lineup yourself, or at least have a lineup that has such good high ground defense that if you want, like, if you got to respect, if their playstyle is this defensive playstyle, respect it. But at least build a draft to go into your playstyle. So then have this insane high ground. Because VP, you saw in that mid engagement, the Lycan dying, the Storm having an Aegis. If they didn't have that Aegis, that fight would have been a HellRaisers win, and they would have been able to move out the base. But because of the leaner pickoff and the fact that they can't defend the high ground that well, it just makes it difficult.
Yeah, you know, being a drafter, it's a fine balance between getting the heroes you want and ensuring that you are acknowledging and in some ways countering your opponent's draft. It's much like being a trapeze artist between two skyscrapers, hoping not to fall to your death. But 2 times in a row, HellRaisers have done exactly that. And VP 1 game away from securing the top spot and taking the big share of that prize pool. Significant amount of money on the line. HellRaisers, I mean, while second does give a nice payout as well, they definitely should be aiming for that first. So hopefully they took T's advice on board. All right, maybe he slid into their DMs. He's like, boys, what's up? Change this around. I like the idea of Magnus Ogre, but stop revealing it all at once, all right? You're blowing your load in the first phase. You've got 3 more picks after that, and we've got at least a 3rd game in just a few minutes. Stay tuned.